Welcome to the Sports Reporters. I'm Jeremy Schaap. We're at the dawn of a new NFL season, and today we are joined by four preeminent voices of professional football.
I'm Joe Buck. I'm from St. Louis. I went to Indiana University. I didn't graduate, but thanks to nepotism, I got a job. I am Jack Buck's son.
I'm Ian Eagle, not Mike Lupica. CBS Sports, Syracuse University, Forest Hills High School. Ranger pride is citywide.
I'm Kevin Harlan of CBS Sports and Westwood One Radio, graduate of the University of Kansas. And I feel for Mike and Ian that they could not get into Kansas or Indiana like Joe and I did, and they had to settle for Syracuse. But look at the great success each of those wonderful broadcasters have had.
And I'm Mike Tirico. I used to throw to the sports reporters when I anchored the Sunday Morning Sports Center on ESPN. Now I'm working at NBC, and what do you know? I'm actually a guest on the sports reporters. Live long enough, and your dreams can come true.
All right, guys, the NFL couldn't be bigger. It's a juggernaut, it's a behemoth, however you want to put it. It is perhaps the last big tent in American life. So taking all of that into consideration, what is it like doing the job that you guys do week after week in the fall? Mike, let's start with you.
It's a joy. I mean, it's great. I mean, I think back the way you said that, Jeremy. Ian and I were working together in Syracuse, New York, when the NFL was just a couple of games on TV and a lot smaller, and it wasn't this behemoth, like you said, that takes over the country on a regular basis. And now I'm sure all of us get asked by our friends, hey, do you have a fantasy league pick for me? Who should I pick as my running back number 2, you know? Help me win my league. So I think for all of us, it's a joy to know that we're really part of the biggest entertainment venture that goes on in America on a week in, week out basis, whether it's Sunday afternoon, Monday night, or Sunday night.
I think back to 1994 when Fox fell out of the sky, and I was 25, having never called football, forget the NFL, having never called football before in my life, and knowing that in 2024 that would never happen. The scrutiny, I think, is at an all-time high. It's a high-wire act every time the red light goes on, but it's the best. There's nothing like it. I mean, I've been lucky enough to do Super Bowls, and there's a small group of people and who have had that opportunity. And when you're doing a game or anything, talking into a microphone, and on the other end of that microphone is over 100 million people, it gets your attention. And that only happens with the National Football League. So you keep waiting for downticks and something to change. And I just don't see it happening anytime soon. And I'm lucky as hell to be able to call it on a weekly basis.
Kevin.
Well, I think we've all started our careers at a very young age doing pro football. Some of us have been around parents that have been involved in the business. I think we all would say that the chance to call this great game to wonderful audiences every Sunday, every Monday, Thursday for Mike and I in Kansas City coming up is such a privilege. And you feel like you've been given this wonderful opportunity, but as we've all said in our past, that we stand on the shoulders of those before us, the Jack Bucks, the Pat Summeralls, the Ray Scotts, the Al Michaels, who is still very prevalent in the business, but certainly a historic figure. So I think we feel like the people that have preceded us have given us this wonderful foundation. But I don't think any of us would say that we don't think about those names and those great voices and personalities that have called the NFL in the past without a little bit of like, wow, what a responsibility, and how lucky am I to be in this seat on this day with that headset on calling this great game.
It's a monster, and it's a news cycle that never ends. You know, I think back to when I started doing the NFL on CBS in 1998. The amount of information was out there, it was limiting. It was limiting for us as a broadcaster. We were leaning so much on media guides and game notes, and you hope you get an interview to give you a little more insight. the knowledge base that fans have now compared to back then, it's extraordinary. So you better bring your A game every time you're on the air, because the access that fans have is at a whole nother level in 2024. And it doesn't stop ever, every day, all day, more. So when you hit the airwaves, you better be ready to go, because the people watching, they're really well informed.
You know, I started my career and I was trying to be like my dad. And I was trying to be worthy of the seat that I was sitting in as a kid who was doing it well before his time and well before the position was really earned. And now I find myself competing with what I hear on Sunday nights, with what I hear on Sundays with the other two guys. And I think, geez, I don't know, how did they have that? How was that information that available? What's their process? So because I respect these people so much that are in these other Brady Bunch squares that we're looking at, I work harder. And that's a good thing, because I think it keeps all of us honest.
As for Mike, Joe, and Kevin, for me, for these guys, I've never seen their work, but I hear they're excellent. So I'm planning on DVRing this year just to get caught up on what it is they do on a weekly basis.
Seriously, though, you guys have all mentioned the heightened scrutiny. When you guys started doing this, calling the NFL, there was no such thing as social media. It literally did not exist. And now we talk to athletes, you guys talk to athletes every week who tell us their mental health is adversely affected by the negativity they see on social media platforms. And certainly announcers calling the most popular sport in the country, the most popular league, are not immune to that. How do you process that? How do you avoid it when you need to? And how does it inform the way you do your jobs now, Kevin?
Well, we're all girl dads, right? So our daughters will tell us, "Hey, boy, they're really getting on you today," or "You've made a mistake." We probably rely on our families maybe more than ourselves. Vern Lundquist told me at one of the seminars that I attended at CBS many years ago. He said, "I always thought that I was I had it pretty much locked down. I was a pretty good broadcaster. I thought I had a lot of answers. I thought I was kind of coasting along. And then I made the mistake about peeking into the world of social media. And I said I was deflated. I was heartbroken." And for him to say that, and I was a younger broadcaster at the time, that resonated with me. So I'm not on social media. I do use it as a news source and a news reel, but I never go toward my own name because of that fear that I have of what I'm scared what people would say.
Nobody likes to be criticized.
I hate it. I'm scared. Social media it's brutal. It can drive a person crazy. And, especially when they're accusing you of things that you don't feel, or, everybody says something stupid. And it's like, you want to go there, and it's why I tell young people to get into this business, turn off social media. Find 3 or 4 people whose opinion matter to you, whose opinion you trust. Listen to your own stuff. Be a great self-evaluator. Don't go to social media to find out if you're any good, because they're going to tell you you're awful. I mean, I'm the poster boy for this. Nobody gets more social media hate of the 4 people or the 5 people that are on the screen right now than me. And a lot of that comes from doing October and calling a Red Sox home run, pissing off Yankee fans, calling a Yankee home run, pissing off Red Sox fans over and over and over. So, I mean, if it was around in '94 when I started as a 25-year-old, I probably would have been drummed out of this business before I turned 26.
Couldn't agree more with what those guys said. And first off, everybody loves Kevin and I, and so you guys can go on social media all the time. You guys are beloved by America. And credit to Joe, because he's given a lot of us, and I don't think I've ever said this to Joe, he's given a lot of us a roadmap on how to handle the criticism that comes with social media, that you're not going to make everyone happy. Usually there's a direct correlation of people who are disappointed / angry with you and which team lost or which team is losing. Of course, in the 3.5-hour broadcast, you say things that you'd like to take back. I think we all love the adrenaline of working without a backspace key. And I think the challenge in social media criticism is understanding 3.5 hours, you're not going to be perfect. We're all in quest of the perfect game somewhere down the line, right? Where we make no mistakes. We identify everyone. We get out the words exactly the way they want them. We want them, and they fit the pictures. But it doesn't happen. So, of course, you're going to get criticism, just like the officials do, just like the quarterback does, just like the coaches do. It's part of the pressure is a privilege, Billie Jean King statement. When you climb to a certain point and you're in a high-profile situation, but you just kind of have to understand that it's out there, accept it for what it is, and don't let it impact your best intentions of how to do the job and how the people around you, as your bosses, want the job done.
You're using your best instincts when you're wearing the headset and you're making split-second decisions. And those decisions, of course, can be scrutinized and criticized. Once you understand that it's all part of this, then, at least for me, I don't let the small stuff affect me in that manner. It's take it with a grain of salt. Some of it's positive, some of it's negative, but don't let that lead you. Don't cater towards it. Do the game the way that your instincts tell you to do the game. And at the end of a broadcast, I feel satisfied and confident when we've all worked together and done it collaboratively and put together the best broadcast that we can do. Kevin's right. I am a girl dad. But my daughter actually thinks I'm an actuary, so she has no idea what I do for a living. Maybe that helps.
You would have been a good actuary.
Correct.
I got criticized for being an actuary.
Real quick, I don't think we can go any further on this panel without a tip of the cap to the guy in the bottom left corner for the job you just did with the Olympics. I mean, it's just, it's amazing for me to be at home watching, and I hope they gave you more than that pullover for the job you did morning, noon, and night, because you're special, and I don't know how you handle all that. I don't know how you keep all that straight. The ease with which you convey information is just awesome to watch. So I should have texted you before. I felt like you were probably getting flooded, and I know there's a time change, but I'll do it publicly and just say, Mike, that was just phenomenal, what you just pulled off. And your whole crew, NBC did an unbelievable job, but you're at the head of it, and you should be really proud. In a business where a lot of us don't get patted on the back very often, and we just hear the negative stuff like we're just talking about, you should take a victory lap, man, because that was awesome.
You're the best of our business.
Thank you.
Really are. You're the best of our business.
Stop, all of you. Thank you, guys. As you know, you guys know very well, we work for those big events. Joe, the Super Bowls, the World Series, and Kevin, you calling all these Super Bowls, and I doing the Final Four this year. You work your whole career to be at these big events, and if people enjoy the broadcast, that's great. And by the way, Joe, Kevin and Ian did text me, so thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you. In all seriousness.
All right, guys, let's get to some stuff on the field. The Chiefs can become the first NFL team to win 3 consecutive league titles since Vince Lombardi's Packers in 1967. Joe, are these just the guys to do it?
I mean, as we sit here right now, I would say they're the team to beat still. But as we all know, it's why there's flex scheduling with the jobs we do on TV. What looks good in May and a schedule, or in August, even after preseason, you're one injury away from the entire narrative and the feel for a conference or a league changing. So, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is otherworldly. So in my mind, yeah, I mean, they're the team to beat in the AFC. I think San Francisco is still the team to beat in the NFC. But again, we are a long way away from January, and we'll see where we are when that comes around. But if the question is asked right now, can they, will they, my answer would be yes.
Mike?
They're the team to beat. Andy Reid always finds, with every team he's been with, finds a way to have just a little bit of a new edge and wrinkle to the offense that highlights the talents of the guys on its roster and keeps the guys who've been there for a long time sharp and with an edge and ready to find a new frontier offensively. But what Steve Spagnuolo did with the young defense last year as the defensive coordinator really set them apart a little bit. So they feel like they have the fewest questions going into the season compared to the other teams. But you're one untimely injury away from things changing. So that's the one unknown. But I'm with Joe. As of now, that's the team that has the most answers that are in the affirmative for me to say that's the best team in the NFL going into the season.
Kevin.
And can they survive a rugged AFC? Look at the great quarterbacks. Literally every team has some prominent person under center, quarterbacking their team, surviving just their conference, and their week-to-week target on their back is going to be monumental. But it was last year. You know, their regular season last year was not great. And I think we all remember the Christmas game in Arrowhead against the Raiders. And they thought there is no way they're going to collect themselves and make a run. But sure enough, with that coach and that quarterback and the resolve they had in minus 29-degree weather, Mike, you were there in Arrowhead in Kansas City. They survived that, which was an unhuman type of game weather-wise. Then they go to Buffalo, and then they go to Baltimore. So they gathered themselves in the footprint of the playoffs and when the games mattered most. And showing Ian that kind of resolve, I thought was just incredible. And they truly were the champion that they were crowned later on in February.
Kevin, I would add to it in this manner. The mystique is back with Kansas City. All of us experienced it with New England, different iterations of the Patriots where you felt the mystique. At home, they felt unbeatable. The community backed them in a manner that made them so invincible. Kevin knows firsthand in Kansas City what Chiefs football means there. But now when you travel and you feel that energy, there's a different vibe and buzz when the Chiefs are in town, when Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are there. So I do think there's a special quality with this team. They are the team on the mountaintop. Everybody is trying to get to that place to match what has been such an incredible run.
Now, Ian, none of you, in fact, mentioned another member of that cast of characters around the Chiefs. When you see Taylor Swift pop up in your monitor, and she's in the stadium, and you've got to think, you know what's happening on social media, you know what everybody's saying, somebody's going to be unhappy. There are too many shots, there are too few shots. What are you thinking, Joe, when you see her at the stadium?
I think of what Kevin said earlier, being a girl dad. I've got daughters that are 28 and 25. They just saw her in London. Clearly, my daughters live a really rough life. And I know that they've told me many times, Dad, I know you think you're funny, okay? We know you think you're a funny guy. But when she comes up on the screen, don't try to make a joke, because you will get crucified for anything you say. And you do not want Taylor Swift's army coming after you. So I've never been in that situation. I haven't to this point. We've got 2 games at Arrowhead this year. My daughters have already looked at Taylor's schedule. They believe she will be there. So maybe 2024 is my time to do a game with Taylor Swift in the crowd. And when that time comes, I will not make a joke. I will take it very seriously, and I will tell the world how in love they are and how much better the whole thing has made the National Football League.
Michael? I love it. Yeah. Wait, can I stop laughing first? It's like Joseph. So good. So good.
So you're punting,
so
Joe.
right, too, by the way. So right, too. We had them in New York against the Jets on a Sunday night, and that's when there was a whole celebrity VIP suite of Taylor and company. And that was the week, and everybody started. Ian, you brilliantly used a lot of the lyrics at a smart point when they were dating before she was in the stadium. So you took that club out of the bag for the rest of us. So we kind of went all in on a tease, tongue-in-cheek with Carson Daly. Got all of that stuff out of the way. I buried a couple of Easter eggs of lines from songs. I reached out to my daughter for guidance. So this was when it was all brand new. But then after that, we had her in the playoff game against Miami where they're all swag surfing in the suite together. And look, it brought more folks to the TV, right? So when you have a guest coming to your house, what do? Make them feel welcome. There was no doubt that more Swifties watched. I even wanted that one night in the opening on camera with Collinsworth that said, "Hi, Swifties, welcome to the game. We'll be here all night." And let's embrace more people watching football. And there's no doubt that people came in, and without insulting your audience, but with also recognizing that as popular an artist, musician, celebrity as there is in the world was also in the stadium, try to find the middle ground. And if enough people thought we went over and enough people thought we went under, then we did the right thing. But Ian ruined the whole thing. When he went off on the song lyrics before she was in the stadium, he just kind of made it impossible for the rest of us and took that club out of the bag. So I blame Eagle.
Ian, defend yourself.
I think all four of us are acutely aware that we're in the entertainment business in addition to being in the sports business. So you do have to balance it out. You recognize that this has brought so many eyeballs to the screen, her presence. What Mike was mentioning was a game in Jacksonville, the rumors that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift were dating, and I worked in a line that Kelce found a blank space in the end zone. Truly thought it was going to get no attention, maybe a wink here, a wink there. My phone starts to explode. We get to the airport. It's on TMZ. I think I was the first person to appear on TMZ without a drug-fueled issue that took place. I made it completely clean. It just gave you a little taste of what was to come. And the reality is, it's fun. We're supposed to have fun. There's a way to do it while still having fun and offending nobody. So I think everybody here is well equipped to handle it. Joe is ready. I believe in Joe. This is not going to be a problem. He is going to smack that one over the fence. Not an issue.
If you guys watch any ESPN, and I hope that you do, you might be aware that the Jets and the Cowboys are still in the league. Joe, what are the storylines heading into the season that you are sick of?
With regard to the Jets and the Cowboys?
No, just period. You could choose your own.
Oh, thank you, Jeremy. Let's go with the Jets and the Cowboys. I mean, right out of the gate, we've got Aaron Rodgers. Clearly, nobody at the NFL is superstitious because everybody's got this big bet on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets being compelling in 2024, like everybody was betting in 2023 that they would be compelling, and they weren't because 4 plays in, the whole thing went to hell. So I've now here we are doing it again, and they're opening on the road in San Francisco. But that's a team you always talk about a team that's built to win now. That's a team that's built to win right now. Have they made their offensive line better? Absolutely. But they brought in some aging tackles and guys that have had some injury trouble in the past. But it all hinges around the quarterback. I don't care what any of us say about any of these teams. Talk about Houston. We didn't talk about Houston. C.J. Stroud, who has everything you want as a leader. He's got the intangibles. He works his tail off. Now they've added Stephon Diggs for him on the outside. They're healthier with Tank Dell coming back. They're really well coached. One of the big offseason wins for any team was DeMeco Ryans being able to keep Bobby Slowick to run that offense and to have continuity for C.J. Stroud. I think that's another team that deserves some attention going into this season. But I'm anxious to see, to talk about those two teams, what kind of a year Aaron Rodgers puts together, because he is compelled and I think driven to prove to everybody that he still has it. And B, where do the Dallas Cowboys go from this moment forward? They signed CeeDee Lamb, but they still have Parsons. And oh, by the way, they still have Dak Prescott. They have not made those deals happen. The price for a Dak Prescott keeps going up, seemingly by the minute. So it was a weird offseason for the Dallas Cowboys, and now they just lost Deron Bland, a really underrated corner for the first couple of months of the season with a foot injury. So there's a lot to talk about, obviously, going into this season, but I'm excited to see where the path leads for both the Jets and the Cowboys.
The NFL is such a national league that even though the Jets and Rodgers, because of the New York market, and Dallas because of their national presence, and just look at any of our ratings when the Cowboys are on, those teams over-index in terms of the conversation of what's happening with those teams relative to how good they are within the league. So they get overexposed for a variety of reasons. Joe just hit it when he was talking about Houston, and I can't wait to get there in week 2 when they play Chicago, because the Bears folks think they have something going. So there are a lot of great stories in the league, and I think unlike the other sports, football has that national appeal that every team can become the flavor of the month just like that, like Detroit did last year, and Houston could very well be that group this year.
There are new rules going into effect this season to improve player safety. And we've been talking about player safety for the last 15 plus years, specifically and especially head trauma, its effects on the long-term health of players. Kevin, how does that now inform the way you call games?
Well, Joe and I were in Cincinnati for the Damar Hamlin incident. And going into that game, by the way, there was so much buildup about the importance of that game. And this was a new chapter of, Jeremy, what you're talking about player safety. How are medical facilities at these stadiums geared and prepared to handle the unexpected or the expected? This case, I don't think we've ever seen a defibrillator brought on the field to save someone's life. So this is a kind of a brand new facet that has come to us from the booth to our viewers and listeners as to what is going on, and trying to walk slowly and accurately, professionally, sensitively through that prospect. Every time there's an injury, I think the four of us take a moment, catch our breath, not overanalyze, let the picture speak for itself, and perhaps get some kind of information from the sideline, which we all of our 4 booths rely on so much.
And look, we used to talk about big hits in a different way. We used to celebrate them in a different way. And it was everybody across the industry. But when you see a play like that now, whatever it might be, whatever kind of a hit, whatever kind of physicality is involved, Ian, how do you think about the way you're going to talk about it on the air?
Jeremy, I think you evolve as a play caller because the game evolves. And all 4 of us have done games where there has been a huge hit. And the words that you use to describe it, the volume in which you make your call is now different. It just is inherently. I'm not personally celebrating those hits in a manner in which I did back in the late 90s and in the aughts, because at that point, we were still in that mode, which was, that's going to go on the highlight reel. I better crank it up. Now, I think it's a bit more muted, and certainly because of injuries around the NFL, you pick and choose your spots as a play-by-play announcer. No speculation. That has been really drummed into our heads year in and year out. Do not speculate on injuries. And also catch yourself when you start wading into territory that you're not qualified to talk about. Wait for the facts. Wait for the information to get funneled your way, because you are the conduit, and words are important.
Jeremy, I was not too many steps away from where you are when we used to do that jacked up segment on Monday Night Countdown at ESPN. So we did celebrate them in a very different way. And I think all of us realize that it's not just fans who are watching, but it's also family that is watching, and the extended family of football. And, you know, for all of us, Kevin was on the air, and I happened to be sitting at home the night of the Damar Hamlin incident. to watch Joe and Lisa Salters and the production team work through truly uncharted waters to know what to say and what not to share. That's a master class, and Ian and I are very proud. And we all went to schools with great journalism departments, and Ian and I are so proud to be a part of the Syracuse family. And I've told some folks up there, you should show that Joe's work that night. I'm not saying it because he's here. You should show that to everyone who's going to be on a live broadcast, because it is in real time, 10 minutes before, in this electric scene, as Kevin said, to now having to walk America for an hour 20 minutes through a life or death situation with very little information. And it's done with the absolute right tone. And I think to your bigger question, it's tone that we all try to make sure we hit right in situations and moments like that. That goes through our minds every game, that there could be a hit in a moment like that. And you don't want to prepare for it, but you want to be prepared for it.
Everybody on the screen right now, including you, Jeremy, you would handle it well and handle it, I think, the same way. What I was very proud of is that none of us, and I'm glad Mike mentioned Lisa, but nobody back in the studio, nobody went down the path of trying to speculate. We just went on information that we were given, which wasn't much, but understandably so. And I, my phone, text after text, what's going on? My daughters, I went back again, third reference to Girl Dad, but my girls were obviously watching, and I felt like I was just trying to explain it to them, and just trying to. The best thing we did, Jimmy Platt, our director, pulled all the cameras back, and so there is no bandit video of that horrific scene down on the field, and all that Troy and me, all we could go on was what we could see with our eyes from the broadcast booth to the middle of the field. And I don't think I realized at the time how much it hit me emotionally until I saw DeMar at what we call in the business, which everybody on here knows, but for viewers, the upfronts, where you're selling your wares to advertisers. And he came to our upfronts for ABC and ESPN, and I saw him, and it just kind of took my breath away, and I was kind of choking back tears because I think I had stuffed a lot of that stuff down, just trying to guide people through that. But everybody, I think, here, I know, would have handled it the same way. You just go with being a parent, being a concerned person for another individual that's got their life hanging in the balance, and you just treat it appropriately.
We talk a lot about player safety in general now in a way that we didn't 20, 30 years ago. And certainly the rules have changed in a lot of ways. What can happen in practice has changed in a lot of ways. But it seems, if you're watching this from the outside or even from the inside, that we're inevitably heading towards 18 games. And these things are all collectively bargained. If we do get to 18 games, what does that say about football in the context of players and their long-term health? What do you think, Kevin?
If they enact that kind of a schedule, which Ian and I were just in the NFL offices a couple weeks ago with our CBS seminar, and the intention is for 18. The commissioner does not like the preseason. He thinks it's not fair maybe to the fans. If you love the game, you love the way rosters are constructed, but the bigger picture clearly is putting the best product out there all the time. So 18 games, the feeling, I think, is inevitable. Perhaps there's another bye week put in there. Perhaps there is a load management game put in there for every player. You get the bye week and you get one more game where you can sit. There's going to have to be great consideration for it. And I think that there is a daily conversation with the league office and the Players Association to make this thing work. And then, of course, you'd extend the season, right? So you'd have more international games. You would also probably extend it in the back half toward the Super Bowl. I think the goal of the league would be to have the Super Bowl on President's Weekend, where that Monday would be a national holiday. Thus, a Sunday enjoyment of the Super Bowl leads to a day off on Monday and everyone back to work on Tuesday. There's a lot of things working logistically with the league right now. that seems to be one of the interesting things that is not too far away from being a reality. 18 games would make it a nice even number, but player safety will be at the forefront of all this, and I think that is a continuing conversation.
I love hearing you guys talk about your craft. And at the risk of putting you guys on the spot, I wanted to ask you, if you got one in your head, what's the greatest football call, present company included, that you can think of? What's yours, Mike?
You know, when you think about them, sometimes it's very hard to come up with one right away that jumps to mind. But Ian and I both grew up in New York, and listening to WFAN, the original all sports station in New York radio, they would always play these great highlights at the top of every hour. And I would maybe be 14, 15 years old. And I always loved the call that they had of Joe's dad, Jack Buck, calling the catch. That magical moment with the 49ers against the Cowboys in Candlestick. And just to hear Jack talk about Montana rolling out looks and throws, touchdown to Dwight Clark. He went high up in the air. And that just has stuck with me forever as one of those things that, man, to describe a moment that great and to be a part of an event like that, that's something that as a young kid helps inspire you to want to be great in the biggest moments like he always was.
That's very nice of you to say. I think, Jeremy, it points out that the best calls really kind of happen on radio. Those are the memorable ones because there's so much more description. There's so much more that you need to do. You know, my dad's, I don't believe what I just saw. Ozzie Smith, go crazy, folks, go crazy. The catch with Dwight Clark. That's all radio. And so the TV calls don't stand out like that because I think it's a visual medium. And we're just accenting, at least I am, and I know all four of us feel the same way. You accent it and you get out of the way and let the director just do his or her job and win an Emmy. That's what
you know it was a pretty good call on Monday night when it was Al, Dan Deerdorf. I think Frank was still in the booth. Montana was a chief going to Denver.
Yes.
Am I right, guys, that he threw a touchdown pass late in the game, and I think Deerdorf said, "Lord, you can take me now," or something of that effect. And Joe's right.
I've seen it all. Yeah,
I've seen it all, or whatever it was. It was just like, oh my gosh, and that was an old Mile High, and the place would rattle and shake and vibrate, and the camera could not stay, and it added the visual with his explanation mark after that catch. I think it was J.J. Bird. I'm not sure who it was, but the point is that Deerdorf really cemented that. And then, Joe, I'll say this. Some of the best calls on their own in a singular lane were by your dad. And I love your dad. And I love the guys on this show. But that call by a legend in our business, the many calls he made were just legendary and stand the test of time.
Ian.
Jeremy, I think with the NFL, it's more often the broadcasters that you remember their style and how they do it, less maybe the calls on television. I'm so much younger than the three other guys here. I grew up watching all of them, so I can recite call after call after call that these guys have had. But the reality for me, my first year out of Syracuse, at WFAN Radio as the nighttime producer, 7 to midnight. So that meant anything on the air during that time period, I was responsible for. And Monday Night Football aired during that time period on the station. So I got so much joy out of listening to Jack Buck and Hank Stram. Hank saying, "They're going to run left. They're going to run left." Jack Buck, "They throw right." Every time. And I think Jack really enjoyed making sure the audience knew that Hank was 100% wrong in his Tony Romo-like speculation. It was great. Fantastic.
Just to wrap this up, guys, and this has been tremendous. We've all known people in the business, and these are jobs that everybody would die to have. Some people do get jaded. They do get bored. They do start mailing it in at a certain point. How do you avoid that? How do you maintain that enthusiasm week after week? And it's not just this sport, obviously, Ian.
For me, every game is its own entity. Every game brings new, fresh storylines, new participants, and it means a new opportunity to share that with the audience. And enthusiasm is something that comes from within. You can't fake who you are over an extended period of time. For me, it is natural and it is organic. Everybody here loves what they do, and it does come across. You know, as far as cutting corners or trying to find a shortcut in preparation, it's not even part of my thought process. I only know one way to do it. Joe only knows one way to do it. Kevin only knows one way to do it. Mike only knows one way to do it. All of the NFL broadcasters, there's a pride factor and there's a level of expectation when you put that headset on that you want to do right by your network, by your team, and also yourself, that you've put in all this work and you want it to reveal itself.
Don't you guys love watching a stadium wake up on an NFL Sunday morning or Sunday night or a Monday night, getting there 3-4 hours before kickoff and watching the special teams guys go out there, the assistant coaches running the steps, the ground crew working, some of the fans trickling in? Like, to me, there's such a wonderful, magical moment of an NFL Sunday, an NFL Monday night. That is, I don't know, I don't want to speak for my friends here, but that's like part of the process of ramping up your routine of getting ready for a game. Good game, bad game, whenever part of the season it happens. That is such a wonderful time that we get a chance to go to because we're at the stadium so early.
And I think that's what we all still feel. We're really happy to be there. We love sports. We love fans. We love the arena. We love watching from the 50-yard line in the booth, the building fill up, right? You're early there, watch the crew, the teams, everybody show up, the fans, and then you turn your back to the field and 70,000 people are ready to enjoy a great game. That's what I think in this one specific small case, Jeremy, but I think for all of us, it's what keeps our pilot light lit. We love sports and love being there, and hopefully that comes through. And that's why we all love to jump back into the next sport and prepare for it.
Gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun. Ian Eagle, Kevin Harlan, Joe Buck, Mike Tirico. Good luck this season, guys, and thanks for being on the Sports Reporters.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeremy.
There are more egregious crimes than what's going on at the University of Colorado. There are worse things than refusing to allow a reporter to ask questions. There are greater injustices all around us. But make no mistake, what Colorado and its coach Deion Sanders have done is wrong, simply wrong. To refuse to allow a journalist to do his job, to even attempt to do his job, that's the kind of thing a bully does. It is a sign not of strength, but weakness. When Sanders took the job, he said he would make the players he inherited quit. He said he would replace them with his own luggage. But now, suddenly, he's figured out that words can hurt when they're aimed at him. We're living in a world in which journalism is under attack, when legitimate sources of news and information are drying up. Deion Sanders is sending the wrong message at the wrong time. If you don't like a question, Coach Prime, it's your prerogative not to answer it. If you think the question's unfair or intellectually dishonest, that is your right. But censorship, which is what this amounts to, is not the answer. In fact, it's disgraceful. Thanks for having joined us with the Sports Reporters.